Now for the part of my talk where I'm going to describe what you can do individually. And for this segment of my talk, I want to tell you about my birthday. So on my birthday, my dad called up the county government and kindly asked them to plow open the dirt road that our farm was on so that he could drive my mom to the hospital and have me delivered in a hospital. They said no. So what my dad did is he grabbed the shovel and he went out and started tackling these snowbanks that were allegedly up to 9 feet high. Well, word got out, and different farmers, different neighbors came over and they brought their shovels. Eventually, someone got a hold of a tractor with a plow on it. So what you're looking at here is a photograph from my birthday. And these neighbors helped my dad open the road. So he ended up driving my mom to the hospital about 18 miles away. And I was born on a Sunday afternoon in a hospital. Yay. My motivation for doing this talk and this presentation to you is I would like to honor what my dad did. And what he did was, despite the government not stepping up, he united the neighbors for a day to do a feel-good project where they had a sense of satisfaction for a job well done at the end of the day. And what I would like to do is come up and work on a project that unites the different subnations that make up the United States to do a feel-good project where people can feel, a satisfaction of a job well done at the end of the day. Socially, I can tell you I'm married. I have even 2 grandkids now, ages 6 and 3. What you could do individually. So if you're, outside of the Mars Society, here's something that you could work on. I told you before how political parties circle around each other, a wrestling technique. Well, there is something that isn't helping with that, and that's called gerrymandering. So notice, please, this is a graph showing how many people occupy the House of Representatives in the United States as a function of our 200-plus year history. And you can see that for more than 100 years now, it's leveled off. 435 seats in the House, because that's how many chairs fit in that particular room in the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. That's the reason. Okay, now, because of that cap, if we were to represent, how well are individuals in the United States being represented in Congress today? Well, we're down to 2 major political parties. There's some independents. Occasionally there's another party, but it's basically 2 major political parties. And, their names today are Democrat and Republican. And one has this view, the other has the opposing view, just like wrestlers. And where are you in all this, right? They represent you, but they're representing a lot of citizens now, not very well you. So if this were you, this is about how well your representatives in Congress represent you in particular. And it's basically black or white on every issue. You're either a member of this party or you're a member of that party, and almost nothing in between. I invite you to study a website. I think they're called fairvote.org. It's in the references after my presentation. And you have to study it for a while. So don't be afraid, don't be angry, be in a growth mode where you feel like exercising your critical thinking skills. And what you can learn about is called multi-member ranked choice voting. And I encourage you to actually study it and work through their examples and try it out with some friends and see how it actually works. In a nutshell, multi-member means when a congressional district votes for someone to represent them in Congress. Right now, it's, the highest vote person goes, that one person. But in multi-member, it's the highest two vote getters that both go off to represent you in Congress. So instead of just one representative from one of these two major political parties, maybe the second vote getter is from a group that's more specialized for that your particular area. I don't know, maybe it's the Green Party, just to put color into this. So now, instead of just black or white on every issue, I'm suggesting it becomes more like a color image. You're going to ask, well, why don't we double the number of representatives? And my answer is, go study the website. But whoops, this is how well you could be represented if we actually went in the direction of adopting multi-member ranked choice voting. Ranked choice is a cool thing, but you'll need to study it on your own. And so now you can see, wow, we can make out better, we can better represent who you are individually. And my claim is, the original prescription in the Constitution of the United States said one representative for every 70,000 people. Wow. Under those conditions and multi-member and ranked choice, you would be this well represented in Congress visually and, an analog. Now, it would take two of our largest cruise ships to represent that many people. And I've gotten some feedback that says, that's not going to work in the United States. But I'm hoping, let me try to address that right now, particularly for a Martian civilization, which is, all this is directed towards eventually creating a settlement on Mars. The Martians will have much better communication technology than the United States did when the Constitution was written. We needed representatives. When the United States was very young, foreign visitors to the United States marveled at our civic education. We, our whole population seemingly understood what the role of government was and the division of government into the three branches of power and checks and balances and what your civic duty was to, be on jury duty. We were a young nation and we knew what we wanted to do. And I'm hoping that a Martian civilization, while it's young, has that same sort of civic engagement and, understanding of what their government is going to be like. And the thought just flew through my mind. Oh my goodness, maybe it'll come back. All right, so I have seen a graph once about how many people in a given country represent the population of that country. So how many people serve in the legislative branch of a government for a given country versus the population. And basically, the best fit curve was a cube root function, which means if the Martians had a population similar to the United States, then there should be, I think, something over 700 representatives in Congress, would be the cube root of 300 million. The original Constitution was a linear function, and so maybe that is a little too idealistic. But it's up to the Martians to resolve what that is. All right. Now, what can the Mars Society do collectively, as a Mars Society? And I would say what we can address is the civic narrative, the myth that unites citizens of the United States towards a common belief, a common goal. All right, what might that be? Well, there was the Declaration of Independence, but that's kind of worn thin. This is a map of what the eastern seaboard of the United States looked like before there was a United States. So there were still these individual colonies, New France, Yankeedom, New Netherland. Great. Sometimes rivals, sometimes cooperating. Did they have anything in common that we could look at and say, well, let's use that as a starting point? So take a moment and think about that. I'm going to put forward the idea that for each one of these little founding civilizations, their objective was to create a better version of the civilization that they came from. And that, I claim, could be the unifying theme that the Mars Society tries to work with. So here we go. I am proposing that the Mars Society create an intranational design competition, one that targets these specific 11 different subnations that make up the United States. And that in this competition, the objective is to identify and draw out and cherish and highlight the positive features of each of these 11 different subnations, the cultural values, their social values, and blend it, integrate that into the narrative of the civilization that we would like to create on Mars. Okay, we want to create human settlements on Mars, a Martian civilization made up of humans. What would we like it to be like? Well, we would like it to be in a better version of what we have now. And this design competition would be attempting to highlight our better common characteristics. We all want a better version of ourselves. If you're in a family, you want your children to be better than you were, right? So same thing with nations. Now notice this little video clip. This is from the first robotic challenge for this year. And the story is pretty much the same each year. It goes like this. You are a member of either the red team or the blue team, and you have an alliance partner, and between you and your alliance partner, you have a couple of robots. But look what's happening right now. Your alliance competitor, the other color, just swapped with your alliance partner. So what they're emphasizing in this nationwide competition is that an idea they call gracious professionalism, that you can compete with someone, but they might be your partner at some other time. And everyone benefits if you help everyone else. So I invite you to go to these meets during this season, this school year, this season. It'll be over by March or so for most people. But don't just sit on the bleachers as part of the audience watching these teams of robots compete several times over the day. Take along a pair of safety goggles and go wandering into the competition pit area. And you will be amazed to see this gracious professionalism at work, where a team is working away on their robot. Oh, their battery wire is broken. Does someone, from another team have something that can help them fix it or replace it or borrow it for the day? And you're going to see people helping each other. Yes, they're competitors, but everyone wants to see robots perform well. They want to see their own robot perform the best that it can, but they don't want to put down other groups. They don't want to, dehumanize other groups. And I would put this forward as a highly desirable trait for anyone who wants to really work on trying to draw the outlines of a new civilization on Mars. I've had 30 years of high school teaching experience, former aerospace engineer, and based on the different competitions I've seen or participated in, I propose that this competition be restricted to just 4 teams, that we try to balance them not only on skill sets, but also on cultural identity. Which of the 11 subnations are you from? The teams eventually submit a presentation. It gets judged. It maybe gets critiqued by the other teams. There's a rebuttal. Now, all of that the Mars Society is currently doing with their international design competition for Mission to Mars. They do it in the summer. But for this international composition, I would propose one new step that puts in this gracious professionalism at the end there and says, okay, We have listened to your 4 presentations. We have heard your critiques of the other teams. We've heard your rebuttal to those criticisms. Now we judges are saying, this team and that team, you two are going to pair up with your complementary skills. And you other 2 teams are going to pair up with your complementary skills. And now we want you to go back and integrate your different design proposals and make one last presentation for, for final selection of, who wins the contract, so to speak, to go forward. All right. So it can be done, but be careful. Look at this flowchart from 1971. It has a warning for us. It says, if you teach the Martian civilization that slavery is okay, then maybe Earth is going to end up being attacked by tiny to giant Martian superpersons who want our women, take a few and leave. Okay, so we don't want to blend the most outstanding features of each of these different cultures. We want to blend, integrate their best features. And, what is a better feature from Yankeedom? Well, I'm from Yankeedom. I would say, putting the common good above self. So I would imagine that a Martian civilization, for them, it would be a no-brainer morally, ethically, legally, to say that no member of government shall have the power to pardon any member, including themselves, of their immediate family. Right now in the United States, that's not clarified well enough, but that's no doubt what the framers of the Constitution intended when they put in that feature in the Constitution. But the Martians would make it explicitly clear. No, a president, if they have presidents, can't pardon themselves. They can't pardon, her daughter or her son, whoever their leaders are. For the Deep South, a positive feature, just anecdotally, they strongly respect the military and military veterans in particular. So that's a positive feature from the Deep South. And, it'd be nice if the civilization, the settlement that we create on Mars were utopian and didn't need a military. But the reality of rival nations here on Earth, like China, dictate that there probably will be a need to defend this Martian civilization from other nations, possibly on Mars. Okay, so blend the good features.